mention real quickly before actually I was going to do this earlier. So far, I checked this morning. There are 25 known dead, and still a lot of people missing from the tornado in the Nashville area. And so our hearts go out to these families in the area and all the devastation that's there. Sarah and I are very, very, very aware of tornadoes and what they can do and when they arrive. As a matter of fact, my daughter, though I love her and I think she's the most brilliant, wonderful, smartest person in the planet, lives in Moore, Oklahoma.
I sure do. And I love every second of it.
This is the girl that would not go in the tornado exhibit for what's the movie whatever in the theme park, Twister. The Twister exhibit in either Nickelodeon when we went or
Universal Studios.
Universal Studios. She wouldn't go in there. It scared her too much. She couldn't go in there. Now she lives in Moore, Oklahoma, which is the tornado capital of the world. And it's like, okie dokie. So, we lived, our house, so what Sarah grew up in was 2 miles south of the tornado that happened on May 20th. And I can't remember what year it was, May 20th, that just wiped out Moore, Oklahoma, literally. And we have a lot of friends that lost their homes and all kinds of devastation there in Moore, Oklahoma. We lived just 2 miles south of the edge of that tornado.
I watched it
when it happened. So what?
I watched it. I remember all of that going on, and I ran out to 36th Street. And I stood there and I watched and I saw that big wall cloud. I'm sitting on that was 2013.
13? Okay.
Because I was on the phone with Cameron. Okay. And I was talking to Cameron. We were just dating at the time. And I was watching that wall cloud. And he was supposed to be going to Moore that day, I believe it was. But he got held back up in Norman. So I was talking to him on the phone, like, where are you?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, I remember that.
And I was at work in North Oklahoma City, and we watched it all on the television. And I left early because we worked in North Oklahoma City, but lived south of Moore, which is you have North Oklahoma City, Moore, and Norman. And so I had to get from there to there. And the tornado went through there.
Yes.
And what usually took me 35 to 45 minutes to get home took me 5.5 hours that day to get home.
It took a long time. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was a rough one. So Sarah and I are familiar with it. And also she doesn't really remember, but the tornadoes that happened in our hometown.
I just remember sitting on that tree stump that the big one that fell over, and like Grandma and I sat there and just watched you guys on the house. I just remember watching that. And I remember a little bit coming home that night after Pesach, because it was after our Pesach Seder, and we were coming home. And
you remember that, huh? Wow.
I remember it being we drove by Casey's, and it was dark. It was so dark, and we were like, that's weird.
Yeah, well, I remember.
Yeah.
It was so funny because we had done the Passover Seder in a Quonset hut, and at the time we were at the hail, it was hailing,
it was so loud.
It was so loud we couldn't even hear us do the Passover Seder. Mm-hmm. And it was just absolutely amazing. But the storm, we're used to storms and everything. And that's 30 miles from where we lived in Parsons, Kansas. And we didn't, of course, we cleaned up and everybody was left and we got the place all cleaned up and did what we had to do with the Tomlinsons and then drove home. And when we got to Parsons, which is a town of like 12,000, was black. I mean, just black. There was not one light on in Parsons when we got back. And got home and it was black. And, we didn't think a thing about it, didn't know a thing about it.
Yeah.
And we figured the electricity had come back on and everything. And so we all went to sleep, and my sister called at 7:30 the next morning, and I answered the phone. Of course, this is landlines back then. Answered the phone. First words out of her mouth is, "Mom and Dad's okay."
Awesome.
and I remember clear as if it was today. Okay, Mom and Dad's okay. Okay, well, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
And she goes, "Mark, we had a tornado. They got hit last night." And it was like, "What?" And she says, "Yeah, I think they were over there or something like that." So we all got there real quick, and it took what usually takes us 5 minutes to get from our house to their house. It took us 20 minutes because we had to drive country roads way back around and come in from the other side and the whole thing. And they had made it to the storm cellar of the neighbors next door. And it's so funny because the windows were all blown out in the 2-story house that they lived in. But other than that, and a little bit of wind and debris damage on the house, which really wasn't a lot, you couldn't really tell. The trees were down, and I mean it was devastating. It was huge. You could see major damage, but the house was not really damaged. And the house where they were in the basement of the house, that house was demolished. But their house was still intact, basically. And I'll never forget that FEMA came out like they do every single house, and they check every single property and everything. And they totaled my parents' house because the house, as it sets, only just the whole thing turned 2 inches, about 1.5 inches to 2 inches. It took the house and just shifted it. The whole stinking house on the foundation. It's the concrete foundation. So no telling. If it had been, and most houses in Kansas have basements and stuff. Theirs was on a solid.
We didn't either.
Who knows what?
I said we didn't have a basement either. Wasn't there like a tree or something on top of the storm shelter entrance, and so it took you guys a while? Wasn't there something like blocking Grandma and Grandpa from getting out of the shelter?
I don't remember that.
Okay.
I don't remember. I know the house was about 3/4 destroyed. When we got there, we could see that was one of the things, because on the block they lived in, which was on the absolute edge of town.
Yeah.
Here is the block, and the road 10th Street, 12th Street. 12th is right here. And then on the other side of 12th is fields. So literally, they lived on the literal edge of the town. Yeah. And on that block, you had 2 houses on one end and an empty lot, a house, my parents' house, and then the rest of the lots were empty. So it came through and wiped out the house on either side of them and then just shifted their house. So what does my dad do? My dad goes out, and he already owned the empty lot next door to their house. What's he do? He goes and buys a double wide mobile home, sets it on the lot, and tears down the 2-story house. You just got annihilated by a tornado.
It's a trailer.
Double wide mobile home, and set it right next door. It actually the lot that got wiped out. So,
yeah.
I don't know. Anyway,
we are richly blessed to bring you what we believe is the fullest, most diverse, yet up-to-date progressive teachings, discussion, and prayer programming you can find anywhere on this planet. Be sure to take the tour of the MessianicLambRadio.com website. I'm Susan Hoogie, thanking you for joining us on the Messianic Lamb Video Network.